So I said yesterday that I was gonna do like a lukewarm take on Grace. I'm also gonna do one on Mary because I noticed that some of y'all have been a little weird about Mary from Sinners, and her role and also her casting. And I'm gonna get into that in another video, but today we're gonna talk about Grace. So as I said in my story yesterday, Grace wasn't all the way wrong. She was, but she wasn't. So I'm going to defend her just a little bit, just a tad. And also talk about where she did go wrong. Because I think that there's a lot of us who saw it initially the first time. We all were like, "Oh, she's a traitor," blah blah blah. And again, fair. But that's not the whole story. So I just wanted to break that down a bit. So one thing we do have to consider about Grace that sets her apart from everybody else who was in the juke joint is that she is a parent. Unfortunately, Smoke and Annie would have been parents and they tragically lost their child, but she was the only one who was actively raising a child. And Remmick had definitively threatened Lisa and said, I'm going to go out to town. I'm going to take a little visit to Lisa and see what's up. And Grace realized that for the threat that it was. The problem is that Remmick was not going to go after Lisa yet. Lisa, even though obviously it's very hard to kind of decipher that when you're in the middle of dealing with the active threat and you're just riding on instinct, Lisa was not going to be in danger until Remmick got to Sammy. And he made that very clear. The rest of them actually made it clear too, because Mary even said, we're not leaving without you, we're family. So the reason why Remmick would not have gone after Lisa until he got his hands on Sammy, which proved to be correct, was because Remmick wanted Sammy for his gift. He made that very clear in the beginning, and he continued with that thought moving forward. So it's clear, as far as me seeing it 3 times in theaters, that Remmick was a Philly. When they were talking about the wood carvings in the beginning of the movie, which I believe Annie had narrated for that scene, they mentioned that the Irish people had a similar gift or similar group of people with the gift that Sammy had, and they were called Philly. And then they mentioned the Choctaw Firekeepers, and then they went on to the West African griot, which are what Sammy is, right? So it's clear that Remmick knew that gift and recognized that gift that Sammy had because he had had it before, and he was desperate to reclaim it. So he wanted Sammy specifically. What was going on and why he decided to threaten Lisa to Grace, as well as, threaten her with sexual violence in Chinese, which I don't know why y'all were thirsting after Remmick for that. That wasn't hot. He was threatening her with sexual violence. I don't understand, with her husband right there. But the reason why he threatened Lisa is because he had been looking throughout the movie for the weakest link. He was looking for someone who was going to be agitated enough to finally invite them in so he could get to Sammy. And he was poking at different parts, trying to figure out who he could aggravate or basically make angry enough to slip up or scared enough to slip up. And he had tried already with Smoke by getting Stack to talk to him. He succeeded technically with Stack by sending Mary in. He tried to send Cornbread out. Everybody else had failed. So he was like, let me try one more thing. He had Bo in the back pocket being like, okay, I have one more out here to test out. And that ended up being the one that got him inside. Bo was able to successfully help him get under Grace's skin because now he knew, oh, you have a daughter they have to look after. That means you are desperate to keep her safe. That is something that I can use against you. So when he was threatening Lisa, he was most likely going to carry that out after he got to the people in the juke joint, because again, his main focus was getting Sammy. The only thing he had to do was get people scared enough to react on impulse and by instinct rather than having the concept of like, oh, he's not leaving. And that is something that Delta Slim tried to warn Grace about right before she crashed out, which again, I'm not blaming her for that. It's a valid crash out. You think your daughter's not safe. You're going to do what you want to do. You're going to do what you feel like you need to do as a mother. And I can't blame you for that, right? But Delta Slim did say it doesn't look like they're leaving, because they weren't. They were trying to lure them out or get them to let them in. And that was the plan all along. It was like, whatever we can do to get people like afraid or angry enough to let us in, we're going to do. And they figured out the easiest way in was to threaten the people they love outside. And the easiest one to threaten would have been a child. Grace is the only one with a child. Ergo, that is why Remmick said, we're going to pay Lisa a visit. But Lisa would have been saved as long as he didn't get to Sammy first. If anything, most likely what would have happened is he would have tried again the next night. And by that point, they would have had to, the survivors would have had to fight against the KKK anyway to be safe from Remmick and his group. And then they would have had to warn Lisa and the others. So either way, if they survived the KKK, they would have had one more day to warn everybody in town and get Lisa to safety. So that's the only thing that I have to say. Again, I'm not going to blame Grace for crashing out. It's a valid crash out. It's a movie. It's a horror movie. They were going to have to find a way in at some point. There was going to have to be some kind of grand finale. And again, they chose the most valid way to get them inside. And I can't blame them for that. And I can't blame Grace for that. The only thing I can blame her for is you took everybody else's abilities to consent to this fight away from them. And that is where I'm like, I was with you when you were right, but you were wrong, and then I had to not be with you, basically. But, I just wanted to, get a little bit more empathy there for Grace. She was right to some extent, but she was also wrong. But I just can't really fully blame her. I can't, really... I saw a lot of people in the beginning, which I did agree with when I first saw the movie, who were like, oh, this is proof that, you're only showing solidarity towards Black people or other people of color when it suits you and everything. And I get where some people had that idea initially, because when Stack was first killed, Bo did say, we have to help him. We have to help them. We have to support them. They're friends. And Grace said, we are here to work. And that is it. We're not here for this. And so I understand where some people were like, she wasn't really fully loyal and everything, because the first sign of danger, she decided to leave. But again, Grace is a mother. She was thinking about getting home to her child safely. So I can empathize to some extent. And it does suck that, her wanting to leave is what got Bo killed. Not that it's her fault, but, again, it just sucks that's the circumstance that happened. But if they weren't really, down for the people and down for the group, I don't think their ancestors would have been able to answer when Sammy was calling via the song. So I don't think that the whole idea of, they're not really for us and everything, they're not really, they don't really care about Black people unless it suits them. I don't think that assessment is 100% true. I think it's just the idea of, they had to pick and choose their battles, and their biggest loyalty, even though they had friends there and they had loved ones and community there, their biggest concern, or Grace's biggest concern, was her family. And I can't fault her for that. And she did mention wanting to also protect the rest of the community. She just was caught in the idea of I want to save my daughter, and then was not thinking clearly. So it sucks that it had to work out that way, but I don't like just us kind of dismissing her as being a fake ally. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say that. Grace, I really wish you had just talked to the others instead of just acting on your own and making a decision for everybody else. But I said the movie 3 times. I have more perspective now. I can't fully blame you.